Hey guys, it's Carl from the Title Card Podcast. Today I'm going to be reviewing Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, the new Netflix film about serial killer Theodore Robert Bundy, commonly referred to as Ted Bundy. When I first heard whispers about this project a few years ago and the possible involvement of Zac Efron as Ted Bundy, I thought, to me, it is the best and most inspired casting of any film. Perfect, I would say. As well as Joe Berlinger directing, who pretty much gave birth to true crime documentaries and television programs as we know them today. With the Paradise Lost trilogy that he co-directed with Bruce Sinofsky, Berlinger also directed Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, and the recently released The Ted Bundy Tapes, a 4-part documentary series, also a Netflix original. If anyone had any hesitations about casting a Disney Channel star as a serial killer, just look at My Friend Dormer from 2017. It had the star of Disney Channel's Austin and Ally and the two Teen Beach movies Ross Lynch, portraying serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, whose performance I got so lost in I forgot it was Ross Lynch until these credits came up at the end. Another reason I was very excited for this film is that movies about real-life serial killers hardly ever get made because the topic is so controversial, and if they do get made, they're normally extremely low budget and go straight to video, or are a toned-down made-for-TV movie. These films, as a general rule, are normally terrible. However, thankfully, there are exceptions. David Fincher's Zodiac from 2007 breaks both the rules by being a high-budget film and a masterpiece of cinema. Another few great movies are My Friend Dormer, as mentioned before, and Summer of Sam. A few other of these sorts of films that I personally like are Carla from 2006, directed by Joel Bender, about the Barbie doll killers, Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. Bernardo is played very well by Supernatural's Misha Collins. 2002's Dormer, directed by David Jacobson, starring Jeremy Renner as Jeffrey Dahmer. Deranged from 1974, a film ahead of its time by technical filmmaking point of view, which is about the Butcher of Plainfield, the Ghoul, Ed Gein. Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, of course, isn't the first film to take a stab at telling the Ted Bundy story. There's about 8 or so out there. The 2002 highly offensive, cleverly named film, Ted Bundy, is one of these, which I highly recommend you skip for reviewing of She's the Man instead. Another pretty bad one is the TV movie from 2003, The Stranger Beside Me. There are a large number of Bundy documentaries out there, including the before-mentioned Ted Bundy tapes, and a 2-part documentary TV series titled Ted Bundy Serial Monster, which was released in 2018 before the Ted Bundy tapes, which really no one is talking about. The two are basically clones of each other. I watched both series before this review and my watching of the film. The Ted Bundy tapes is by far the better of the two. It's curious though that Ted Bundy Serial Monster came first. So the film, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. The title itself is a reference to Judge Edward D. Coward's remarks on Bundy's murders while sentencing him to death. It is based on the book The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy. The synopsis is a chronicle of the crimes of Ted Bundy from the perspective of his longtime girlfriend Elizabeth Clover, who refused to believe the truth about him for years. It is directed by Joe Berlinger, starring Zac Efron, Lily Collins, Jim Parsons, Haley Joel Osment, John Malkovich. Did I think of it? I was so excited about this movie, I was constantly thinking about it. I even researched how Netflix released their products, so I could watch it as soon as it dropped. I found out Netflix's headquarters is based in San Francisco, Zodiac's territory, and they release right on midnight, their time. So, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile had a release date of May 3rd. I had to figure out what time it is here in Melbourne when it was midnight in San Francisco, so I found out 5 PM is the time the shows drop in Australia on the same date. So at 5 I was waiting, then began watching. I couldn't help but be disappointed with the film, but I still think it's a great movie. I'll start with the positives. Zac Efron gives a career performance. His last 20 minutes are incredible. However, there are certain situations in Ted Bundy's life that I would have loved to see Efron's take on. Lily Collins is also very strong in her performance. All the other performances were good. The film was directed well and looks great. The strongest thing about Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile is how it shows that certain characters would believe that Ted is innocent. The writing for this aspect is good, but Efron's performance really sells it. The most negative thing about the film is you never really get the sense of how horrifying and disgusting Bundy's crimes were. The movie doesn't depict them, which is fine, but with the title of Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, you kind of dig your own grave for that feedback. With the absence of that content, the viewer won't understand why Bundy was such a monster. It really relies on the viewer already having an understanding of these crimes, making the Ted Bundy tapes a real companion piece. This wasn't a problem for me because of the documentary I stated watching earlier, and I have read the book The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. Well, I don't know if anyone's really read The Stranger Beside Me because chapters keep being added to it every decade. I can only think of one other movie that approaches the subject matter the same way, and that's Snowtown, about the bodies in the barrels murders that took place in South Australia in the 90s. And somehow I'm able to forgive one but not the other. It might be as simple as I know more about Ted Bundy than I do about what happened in Snowtown. So my rating is going to be a lot higher than it will be to the casual viewer, but hey, if people can call Avengers Endgame a masterpiece and give it a 5 out of 5, I think I'm allowed to give Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile a 4.5 out of 5. It is my favourite movie of the year so far, and I do recommend you watch it. Maybe watch the Ted Bundy tapes first, but I think it is worth watching for Zac Efron's performance alone. If you want to hear more reviews, check out the Title Card podcast. I'll put a link in the description. Let me know what you think of the movie. If you want to see it, just leave a comment. Thanks for listening, guys.